Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode number 230. Today is May the 4th be with you. My name is Craig Prowlis, and joining me is Obi Mandrew Kenobi. How are
I
you?
forgot. I was about to say I forgot that it was May the 4th because the 4th, my son was born on the 4th, so it hits his 11 months old. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on today.
Well, it's a kind of a bummer because back in the day we used to do a bunch of stuff for like getting the boys together and doing some Star Wars stuff, and obviously a bunch of people have like moved since then. But like, I think I've only gotten like two good May the 4th from people. Obviously TK, my dad sent me one, but do you plan on well now that you know, do you plan on watching any Star Wars or anything? Because me and Sam have been doing the new Darth Maul show like at
I
night, so I
was
think we're
just
on
about to
episode
say
three.
I think I'm gonna start Maul because
Yeah,
Maul looks.
do that. Yeah, I keep hearing good stuff. TK just finished it and he said it's fantastic. So I'm again, and you and I are always in the same boat. Like I don't want to keep seeing more prequels about prequels about prequels. But when it comes to a good dark side show, then I want to watch it. And the first three episodes I'm into, dude, Darth Maul is a badass. It's going good. Sam Witwer is always fantastic as the
Yeah,
voice,
he's
and
underrated.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we'll watch maybe a movie, but I'm content with just watching the show and wearing, like a Star Wars shirt while I do it.
I think this week really I'm more focused on like Mortal Kombat comes out this week, so I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's
going
been
to
my big
be
thing that I've been looking forward to. That everything else is kind of just like
yeah, that's going to be good fun stuff. So guys, may the 4th be with you and hopefully you're watching something cool out there or anything Star Wars related. So with that down out of the way, guys, you can see that we're doing our Zoom again. We're a little bit behind on what the episode is, but Andrew and I are still kind of getting the kinks worked out. So hopefully, again, this episode comes out clean. Hopefully, there's no audio issues, no video issues. So we are going to kind of keep messing with this so that we can kind of figure this out. Hopefully, it goes according to plan. So if you guys are at home watching on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you guys are interested in following us on our social media, our link tree links in the description. You can take that to Facebook, you can take it to Instagram and Twitter. And if you guys are listening to the audio only version of this podcast, you can find us on your podcast platform of choice. So,
I'll say right now.
yeah,
Every time you don't take 2 seconds to like our video, that's food you're taking out of my son's mouth. So think about that.
poor Mateo. Hey, he's hungry too. Um, So before we dive into our main story, guys, we'd like to do off the top, where Andrew and I take a second and talk about they don't have to be so much smaller stories, but just something we can kind of go over that maybe if you haven't heard about it, it'll just kind of raise to your attention. And the first thing I wanted to bring up is that apparently GameStop is trying to make a deal to buy eBay, and this comes to us from Yahoo Finance, and it says GameStop has offered a $56 billion in cash and stock to buy eBay, but an interview with CEO Ryan Cohen on the math surrounding the deal raised more questions than answers. GameStop is roughly a fourth the size of eBay with roughly $9 billion of cash on its balance sheet. The company said it has a highly confident letter from TD Bank for $20 billion in debt financing. Meanwhile, eBay's evaluation is at $46 billion. Apparently, let's see, Cohen appeared annoyed with CNBC host when pressed on how the company would raise the necessary funds to purchase eBay, a legacy online marketplace, and he kept repeating it's half cash, half stock, but the details are on our website. They continue to press them, and he continued to be, like shocked that they don't understand why. But since then, GameStop stock declined more than 10% Monday as investors concluded that the proposed deal could require a significant share of insurances and dilute existing shareholders. Now, we don't have to dive too much into this. This just kind of happened. This is stories that are happening within the last 8 to 24 hours. Obviously, eBay once a time was really the big dog until Amazon came in and kind of stepped on them. But I could see if I mean, there's nothing. You don't want to lose eBay. I actually just bought something on eBay the other day. I was looking for book three in the series, the Time Arrow series that I'm reading. So I actually just got an eBay package in today. So I like that. I guess somebody's looking at doing something with it. It's just why why is GameStop the one doing it when we just had all these stores closed down? And maybe for them, it's that was for the better to kind of keep them healthy, but. Andrew, do you see any world where like it makes sense that GameStop is buying eBay?
I've seen like people saying like one irrelevant company buying another, which is kind of a crazy, but I guess kind of a fair. comment depending on like who you are. Like it sucks for us because we don't have one out here anymore. But no, I don't know how that would like really make sense, especially financially from a company that's just been shutting stores down and is kind of like a shell of like almost like its former self, you know? They're more like I don't want to say like hot topic now, but like there was a while where you could go in there. They didn't really have cool stuff. It was just like pops and everything. So it's like you're telling me this company is going to buy eBay, and I
You
don't
can
use eBay
forget
too much
it.
anymore, but I do like that it's there. And we're not like big resellers anymore, but when we used to like get into like collecting comics, getting them graded, we would buy the extra ones to get them graded so that way we could not like resell, but more like fund our hobby and that was just the easiest way to sell it was through eBay. I just bought like this cool like luggage thing that I used to carry everything on there like a year ago, or whatever. So I personally think eBay's still a good company. I just don't know how something so small or something that sounds like it's so much smaller like GameStop could afford it.
Yeah, I didn't get really a chance to dive into all the financial stuff. It's a story that just kind of popped up, and I wanted to just put it on people's radar. That's what Off the Top's for. So maybe by the time we record the next episode, maybe more will come out, and I'll maybe do a dive further into that. But I just wanted to put that on people's radar that GameStop's looking at buying eBay. So leave your thoughts down below. Did you have anything else you want to add on that?
No, it's a crazy random story though to come out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, with our bigger off the top coming up, guys, there is a new Resident Evil movie coming out, and with it
Sure
comes a
is.
new trailer that is dropped. It's a teaser trailer for the movie that's coming out on September 18th. If you guys aren't familiar with it, Resident Evil is an upcoming horror film directed by Zach Kreger, who co-wrote the screenplay with Shay Hatton. Based on the video game series by Capcom, the film is the second reboot and eighth overall installment in the Resident Evil film series and will tell an original story unrelated to the previous films and inspired by the early video games of the series. It stars Austin Abrams, Zach Cherry, Kylie Reese, and Paul Walter Hauser, who's hilarious. The film follows a courier named Brian who is attempting to deliver important cargo when he is drawn towards a viral outbreak of infected monsters and has to fight for survival in one night. Now, there's been some backlash from this trailer, and
Yeah.
they also put out another because the trailer I think is almost like they call it a teaser, but I think it's like almost 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is pretty juicy. And after that, there's a 12 minute. I think I sent it to you in Collins, but I don't know if you've got a chance to watch the Zach Kreger
Gregor?
when he
Yeah.
actually kind of talks
The
through it.
commentary.
Yeah, the commentary on it. So there's been a lot of backlash of people saying like, "Where's Leon? Where's Jill?" But clearly that's already been kind of addressed that it's an original story. People are kind of upset, I guess, that there's not as many zombies as they would like it to be, and people are saying that it doesn't really feel like Resident Evil. So I have a couple bullet points that I kind of want to go through of what Zach Kreger went over, but as your first look at, because you're the Resident Evil person here. And are you wearing a Resident Evil shirt now that I'm
I
noticing that?
am.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. So as a first look before we dive into kind of what he went over, how did you like as a Resident Evil fan, how did you like the trailer? Did you feel like it's lacking anything or doesn't feel like a Resident Evil movie?
The trailer maybe kind of doesn't feel like Resident Evil. It feels a little bit more like Silent Hill, but again, I can't judge it just off like that teaser alone. And maybe it is because of like lack of zombies, but I don't think that that's a bad thing, especially to lead off with. The zombies are going to be in this movie, and I think maybe the other thing that maybe makes it feel so and again more Silent Hillish is because of the snow. Because traditionally in Resident Evil, the outbreak takes place over like that summer leading into September is when like it actually really hits the city and like takes off. That I I don't know where this would be positioned at, like as far as Raccoon City being a made up city. Where in the U.S. it would be now that it snows in September. But I personally like it. I'm excited for it. Like I think at least it looks scary and it looks like it's not going to be over the top action or anything like that, which I think that's been the biggest thing for some of the older ones. That's why those ones are off the rails. This is just action, action, action. And it's so hard to say, like, what is Resident Evil now? We went over this the other day when we were talking about Resident Evil 9. Like, I'm not of the camp, like, I don't need to see the heroes. I don't need to see Leon. I don't need to see Jill or anyone else. Because what does that matter then at
Oh
this
God.
point? Like those stories don't need to be told. They've been told a million times through like
Hold on, we got
whatever.
to take a quick pause. My mic just kind of busted. Hold on. All right, sorry about that, guys. My mic kind of took a dip there, so I don't know where the cut is exactly going to be. I'll try to get it right with where we were at with what Andrew was saying. But if you remember where you were at, Andrew, kind of I guess pick up from there, and we'll keep going.
I think where I left off at was like I just don't need to see the other heroes. Like I think there's other stories to tell. We know other people have made it out of Raccoon. Even in Resident Evil 9, there's people who've died from this weird like mutation strain that's saying like, oh, okay, they were in Raccoon City at one point and they got infected. That I wouldn't even mind seeing the story of somebody make it to the end or whatever and then die and not even make it out because that's another big horror movie thing too. There's lots of those side journals and stuff like that you read in Resident Evil. Like whenever you play the games, they're almost just as interesting sometimes as whatever the main character is going through. So I don't mind it being like a no-name courier. I don't need to see Jill, Leon, Barry, whatever. Like if they're there, they're there. That's cool. But that's not what I need to see for this movie to be good personally for me. I think there's only one thing I'm a little caught up on, and we could circle back to that if you want to, unless you'd like me to say
Oh, no,
something
no.
on it.
Let's see if it pops up in one of the bullet points that I have right now, and if it fits that category, we'll explore it. But I also did want to say that I don't know if I like it, but it's interesting that it's in September when it clearly probably could have been more of an October movie for the theme. But as long as the movie stays in theaters for like 60 days at least, I can see it maybe having, it'd be a weird movie to have an uptick, 30 days in going into October. Do you think that's going to hurt it at all that it's not in Halloween season and it's so early in September? Or do you think it could have a smooth transition into October and maybe the box office goes up?
That for me is harder to say because I don't know about like movie upticks and how they do in theaters, like when the prime time is, like how they delayed like Mortal Kombat so it could be a blockbuster. I'm like, why? What? But I can't speak to
Well,
that.
usually you lose 50% of it goes down 50% going into the second week. So it's going to be interesting if more people go see it in its fifth week than they do in its second week because of October. So I'm curious if maybe that was a marketing strategy to try to keep the flow going up. But I don't know. This is something I thought was kind of interesting that it's not on October 1st and it's kind of mid-September. But so to address kind of the things that it was getting its backlash on, Zach Krager did do his 12-minute commentary on it, and he hits a couple of things. And the first one is that it's an original story in a familiar world. Krager stated he is not retelling the stories of characters like Leon Kennedy, and he feels those are already done well by the game. Instead, his
Yeah,
film is an original story set within the Resident Evil universe, specifically taking place alongside the events of Resident Evil 2 in Raccoon City. And he points out that he says it takes place during the same day, that it's going to be kind of canon with it. And again, like Andrew was saying earlier, there's other movies that are because what was the movie we watched? They've done a Leon Kennedy one. It's hard to do things that are going
Welcome
to
to
be
Raccoon
something
City.
that's a recreation because there's certain things you can get like when Halo does it and Fallout does it and The Last of Us does it. When you try to do a one for one or a close enough one for one, there's a lot of things that can criticize it. Master Chief got smashed on when the Halo series came out. Fallout kind of did a little bit differently because they're kind of living in the Fallout world, not so much recreating the game. But Last of Us for sure got obliterated, at least when the comparison of how Ellie was and how Joel's a little different. So I
Not to
think
mention
what
the
it's
nosedive. I think season two is it season two where, or maybe it was closer to the end of season two when they really started getting to Abby. It seemed like those it just nosedived in like
Yeah,
rate.
100%. And I think it's a smart move to get something that goes, oh, this is parallel with Resident Evil 2. And so if the movie could be bad. I mean, there's no saying it's going to be
Yeah, for
good, but if
sure.
it's bad based on the movie. Not there can't, there's not going to be any fanboy lashing of going, oh, this doesn't look like Leon. Oh, that's not what happened in the game. Because even when you look at the Resident Evil Netflix thing, as cool as Lance Reddick is as Albert Wesker, the instant thing of going, well, that's not canon. This isn't the real Resident Evil. So I think it's a smart move to kind of do an original story because at least on that merit, it can't be bad mouth because it wasn't in comparison to the game. And I actually like that. So
Yeah, and we had something that was a little bit similar. So like the older, even though they're not good, I first two starring Mila Jovovich because two it's kind of where it jumped the shark a little bit. But you had one that took liberties with the story, but it was almost kind of like that. She's in a mansion, but then in this underground, laboratory. And that first one, I think, is actually just a good horror movie in general, too, because it's like 40 minutes before you actually see a zombie, and you kind of see them a little bit, and then they're kind of overwhelming to show like how dangerous they are. Whereas the second one is almost like it starts off pretty much as like an apology. You're like in Raccoon City. Nemesis, of course, looks stupid because that's just what they did at the time. But people like Jill in that movie. But people are just gonna nitpick whatever, and you get almost like recreated scene for scenes in that movie. Even though that movie, I hate it because it focuses so much on damn, what's her character? It's not Jill, Alice. That it focuses so much on Alice, and she's like superhuman and doing all this weird stuff. But all the little stuff in between is really cool.
Right. So it's yeah. So I mean, it's cool that he's doing his own kind of original thing, which he's good at. I mean, if you watch his movies, Barbarian and Weapons, that's what he does, original stories, which brings into the next things that he's focusing on dread and atmosphere. He wants to recreate the sweet spot of the games, the tension of standing at the mouth of a dark passage with limited resources, knowing something horrible is ahead. And as far as the dread go, man, I mean, just walking when you watch the trailer. Obviously, we don't see too much with all the creatures, but when he's turning down the hall or the sewer and he turns around and sees that like fat albino just
They
sitting
call him
there.
instead of Mr. X, it's Mr. XL.
I mean, dude, I was instantly, did you imagine walking down anything and seeing that thing sitting there? So, actually, I mean, I've only seen Barbarian. I plan on watching Weapons. Maybe we'll try to watch that. Maybe not tonight because it's Star Wars, but maybe this week. I'm the dread's there for me. So, do you think he's going to be able to capture that pretty well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it already kind of nails it too. Because if you have to take into like account other things too, like what builds on the dread, you could have monsters, but if it's just a shooting gallery, it's a shooting gallery. And this dude at one point, like in the teaser, finds a shotgun, checks it, and it is empty. So if you don't have ammo for like whatever it is that you're using, that you can't do anything. So that's adds to that dread. And so I feel like the teaser definitely nailed that. I liked even just if you're talking about subtleties of things that add dread, the trailer or the teaser trailer, whatever. I'm just gonna say trailer because it is like 2 minutes long. It's
Yeah.
very long. The weird phone dial disconnection thing or whatever that keeps like beeping in the background or whatever like that, and it's like getting progressively louder. It really nailed the aesthetic of fear.
Excellent, excellent. And the next thing we got to look at is that he wants to do a grounded T-virus focus. Kreger mentioned wanting to keep the threats more grounded, similar to Resident Evil 2, rather than the magical element seen in later entries like Village. He
Good.
also indicated a focus on the T-virus mutations rather than traditional zombies. So this kind of answers the question of what people saying that there's lack of zombies, and I love it because the way he was talking about it, and there is spots in the movie where you do see zombies. They're at the gate, they're falling off the roof, but his version was like, if you're gonna have this T-virus, why not focus on really cool interesting monsters. So you see the fat albino, you see the thing popping out of the door with all the legs, and it's one of those things where even like in Requiem, you see the big fat like the babies, you see the creepy little girls. In other games, there's like the lickers and the dogs. So for me, I don't have any issue with there not. I don't want to say a lack of zombies because there is going to be zombies, but I'd much rather see the crazy. If there's not going to be like a nemesis chasing them around, I'd much rather see crazier looking mutated enemies on screen than just zombies like we've seen over and over and over again. So for me, I'm like I think this is the best part.
I think so for me too. Like that's what I personally prefer in my Resident Evil. Even though I do love like a lot of the modern ones and the newer ones or whatever, but like 0, 1, 2, 3 like really kind of nail that more like that grounded like aesthetic. Like even in the mansion, you have this giant snake or even the big plant, but it makes sense for the tests that they were doing and what they were doing down there versus something like yeah, like Lady Dimitrescu or even like Las Plagas in the Village. Those are still within a realm of possibility, but that's more like on the back end of something versus like, okay, we've been experimenting on the shark and now it's huge versus, a 10-foot tall lady.
Yeah. And then finally, we have him having the avatar in the fan perspective. Well, he is the character is described as an avatar for the average player, a normal person caught in the nightmare. He wants a normal person caught in the nightmare rather than a trained combat expert. And while he is a self-proclaimed gigantic fan of the games who has played them repeatedly, he has candidly noted that he expects some fans might be critical regardless of his approach. So it was really interesting to see that he wants to have like a Joe Everyman be the main guy, not Leon kicking the shit out of everybody. But it was cool from the Avatar perspective.
Suplexing people.
Yeah, is that when he kind of has this behind the shoulder perspective of like when he's turning around, like the camera follows him, so it does kind of
Those
have
third
like a
person
game.
shots, yeah.
Yeah, it has like a gamer feel. And then of course, like you mentioned, there's things of him searching for ammo. He said there's gonna be a bunch of things if he's running into padlocks, and then there's even like homage just showing herbs and stuff in the background. So from that point of view, I mean, you can see the fan love is there that he's doing all these things that are Resident Evil related. So when people say it doesn't feel like Resident Evil, I mean, what's more Resident Evil than scrambling for weapons and getting stuck behind certain locks and having to come back and try to figure your way out from them? So I look at it as it's plenty Resident Evil for me.
Yeah, it's enough for me. I feel like enough is there, and we'll definitely see more with the trailer. Like, it would be too soon for me to like say anything like right away. But no, I think again, having that Joe Everyman or whatever, it's like Resident Evil 9. That's what Grace is for. That's Grace's whole purpose, is to have this scared, untrained person dealing with these things, and then Leon walking down Kennedy is backflipping and shooting people in the head with the Magnum.
I love it. So that's what I have for the Resident Evil. Obviously, it's going to be coming out pretty soon. But was there anything else you wanted to add on? Did you want to circle back on something?
I think my only negative and the only thing I get hung up on is I don't know what time period this takes place in. And that kind of like
It's the
bugs me a
same day
little
as
bit.
Resident Evil 2. Whatever day Resident Evil 2 takes place
Well,
on, that's the
yeah,
same
it
day.
does that, but when the dude's underground and he has like that light and it looks like it's a weird adjusted angle, like if you look at it and zoom in on it, it looks like an iPhone like 13.
Oh,
So it
here,
doesn't
here. So it's
look
not
like
1996.
it, yeah, it doesn't look like a 1998 device. And so that's the only thing I'm like a little bit hung up on a little bit because I do like going back to that time period. Like even when you were playing like Resident Evil 2 remake or like 3 make, just the way things were like during that time period, I like well again growing up. So maybe we just have that special place in our hearts because we grew up during that time. That's like an aesthetic you don't see anymore. That like I don't really want to see like iPhones and stuff like that in this.
I feel
That and
you.
I think even some of the cars on the street look like newer like Chargers and stuff like that too.
Okay, yeah, now I'll be curious to go back and look at it again. But because as far as I can tell, that's what he was saying it was supposed to be. So if that is a
But
goof, then that's on
it's a
them.
small hang up for me. So
Right on. So, guys, leave your thoughts down below of what you think of the new Resident Evil trailer and the movie that'll be out later this year. So, with that done out of the way, guys, let's move into our main story, and that is that Andrew and I have two game reviews for you. We'll kind of go through them, not quickly, but I mean as quick as we can. It's going to be Mouse PI for Hire and Pragmata. I recently beat Mouse PI, and Andrew has beaten Pragmata. So I figured these are two big games right now that a lot of people have questions on. And I figured we'll kind of just dive through them and hit a couple bullet points and give our light review on them. I don't want to get into like spoiler territory, but just kind of what the games are about and if they're overall going to be worth your time. So I'll go first on this one, and then Andrew, you can do Pragmata after this. So let's start with this. This is Mouse PI for Hire is a 2026 rubber hose style first person shooter game developed by Polish company Fumi Games and published by Australian Playside Studios. The game was released April 16th, 2026 for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Windows, and Xbox Series XS platforms. So the developer and the publisher, it seems like this is going to be a series. It seems like Mouse might be like the main name for the series, and PI for Hire might be game one of this series. That's kind of up in the air. That's kind of what some people are alluding to, but the game itself is actually selling quite nice. It's doing really well. So as it released on April 15th, it's a massive success, selling an estimated 360,000 units across all platforms, generating a 10.4 million in gross revenue. The overwhelmingly positive indie shooter hit number 2 on Steam global charts. Physical editions are available for pre-order, launching July 10th. That's older news. So yeah, the game's doing great. So which is good to see for a brand new title. A lot of people have issues with saying when you make a new game, new IP, that you go because we see these new games come out and it closes studios. I know even if they do good, we've seen games come out and then the studios close. So for this being their
yeah.
first game, I don't think they're going to be in trouble for any of that. So I'm actually quite happy with how they're doing. So I'll get into the premise of the game first. Mouse PI for Hire takes place in a city called Mouseburg in 1934 after a war in the Old World over an event called the Quite Big Affair. The city is mostly inhabited by anthropomorphic mice as well as other rodents such as rats and shrews, with the latter being seen as a lesser kind of rodent due to their short nature. They used to have their own town called Shrew Thicket, but rising tensions led to it being destroyed. The city mimics the 1930s style New York with cheese prohibitions, film industries, and city corruption. Mouseburg is not shy of crime rates, as there are many criminal operations involved, such as shrew violence, organized crime, and cheese legging, which is like bootlegging. While cheese can be eaten as normal, it can also be consumed in a melted state like liquor, and blue cheese and powdered cheeses are considered to be the same as drugs. So the premise is hilarious when you kind of dig into this old school Dick Tracy style world, and these guys are moving cheese is like drugs and all the stuff you got to get into. Um, as far as the gameplay goes, it's a first person shooter. The gameplay includes both investigative sections where Jack has to find clues and solve puzzles, and combat sections where he engages in shootouts, wielding a variety of guns, melee weapons, and gadgets. The It's pretty much easy to pick up. It's not there's nothing too hard about it. You start off with, your basic pistol and you'll start getting more and more guns, and as it goes on you'll get more and more abilities. It can be a tad repetitive because it does kind of seem, I mean, the levels are, I guess, are what stand out about it because there's different things to accomplish in the levels, but essentially it's the same thing a little over and over again. The enemies kind of get repeated. There's not a lot of variety, at least not towards the end when you start seeing more on the same levels. I do kind of wish there was more detective work because it says you do these detective things, and it's really not solving it in terms of like the crime. It's more like getting like how to solve the level. And at the end of the mission, when you go back, you do kind of put these clues on a detective board. So story wise, it seems like he's solving it. But as far as what you do in the level, there's really not much detective work going on. But again, this is kind of a boomer shooter first person game. So I can see that they've kind of more focused on that. But I think that's what a lot of people kind of misunderstood because when you have a PI for hire, you think it's going to be kind of more Dick Tracy-ish, and it really isn't. There is some light lock picking mechanics that you find these chests and you can use his tail, and his tail goes into it and goes up and down. You got to like push the little locks to like get it right. But then
I've
there can
seen a
be.
lot of people hyping that up and saying like it's the most it's what they're saying. They're like finally after all these years we have a new lock picking mechanic that isn't like Skyrim's where you hit the tumbler or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess when is the last time you saw a new lock pick mechanic?
Yeah, it's fun too because later on they'll start adding like spikes. So if you hit it, it kicks you out of the lockpick. And then there's certain chests, I think you only get one try at them, and they're also timed, and you have only a certain amount of movements. So if you can't get in the right amount of movements, and then in the time you fail it, so it does kind of put some pressure on it. And then they also added there's a mini game that's it's a card game. It's kind of like a little baseball game. And one of the things you can do, and we'll get into collectibles in a little bit, but you can find these baseball cards and you can go to this lady and you can play it. And you go like it's back and forth between batting and then being in the outfield. And there's some real mechanics to it, and it's fun, and you can win certain things out of it to go to this vending machine and purchase things. But I really didn't spend too much time on it. I was talking to Denny, even Sam. I think everyone only played like a game or two of it, so there's no real emphasis on it. So I'm not sure if getting anything from like the vending machine, what you win from the tokens, gets you anything more. But I've only played it a handful of times. As far as the combat and mechanics go, there's some movement things you can get. So you start off with like a dash ability, and then you get double jumping, and then eventually you get a wall run. And then within the game, when you want to find collectibles and stuff, you can squat and you can move around through different vents. It works to progress the levels. I just don't think it was utilized enough. And I'll get into that in when I get to world design. They're cool mechanics. It's just some of it feels like a little too late in the game to be utilized.
Hmm.
Like at the very end, you kind of get something where you can grab onto boxes. But for me, it was like the last couple levels, so it didn't seem like it was emphasized enough on it where it should have been something more like well, I'll save that for world design. I'll put a little star right here, and I'll dive back into that. But there is some mechanics that you can do that kind of increase the game and how you're able to move through it. As far as the weapons go, this is kind of where the game is supposed to shine. It's got quite a bit. It's got the micer, it's got the boomstick, the Devarnisher, which was one of my favorite weapons. It's a powerful weapon that deals like acid damage and it melts these guys down. There's a gun, there's a Tommy gun called the James gun, the loose cannon, the Kiss Kiss, the Jarhead, the X1D, Mousifier, and there's a couple other things you can snag. You can get dynamite and use like a rocket launcher. Um, the guns are really cool. If you find there's these blueprints throughout the world through the different levels, and you can bring it to a person in town, and they'll upgrade your guns for you. But every gun, as long as you get, I think the first upgrade, it gives them a second, like a second style of shooting. So instead of shooting with RT, you can hit LT, I think, and it'll do a different type of thing. So like your shotgun can shoot like a fire missile and things like that. So
Oh, that sounds
I
pretty
didn't,
cool.
yeah, I didn't really recognize that till later in the game. So I would say if you are upgrading your guns, make sure you're checking out both types of ammo because it is kind of cool to see what each of them do. As far as the world design goes, obviously you have Mouseburg, which is kind of like this hub world. In the main location, you interact with everyone, and you can get these missions. And this is where you go to put your clues on the detective board. This is where you go to pick up new missions. This is where you go to. There's going to be a spot that opens up that you can buy your ammo and you can buy your health. And then you meet this chick named Tammy, who down at the bottom of her like mechanic shop is where you can do your upgrades. So it's worth checking all that out because upgrading it is definitely what you need to kind of make the game progress. There's easy mode, and I think there's like a harder mode. Um, so if you're going to be doing the harder mode, you're going to want to make sure that you're upgrading all your weapons. Um, as far as my gripes go with that, so this goes back into the mechanics of the double jump and the wall running. This is the biggest thing I've seen with everybody having an issue is that there's no backtracking in the game and there's no new game plus. So one of the biggest things people are having an issue with is if you want to try to 100% the game and get the platinum or get the 100%, you got to make sure you're doing it all in one playthrough or have multiple saves, I guess, and go back because once you beat a level, you can't go back. And I thought that's a real missed opportunity. Especially, I was thinking maybe it should be more like Metroidvania. Like if you're getting these abilities later on to do wall runs and to do double jumping, it would have been cool to go back to a level and say, hey, there's 10 out of 10 collectibles. You only got six through your first run through, but because you needed an extra ability to go back and beat that level with those mechanics. So I don't know why that's a thing that they missed on because that seems to be the biggest issue that everybody has is that there's no going back and collecting everything, which I found really really annoying as well. As far as the characters go, they're all pretty cool. I mean, the two biggest ones you're going to interact with are Tammy, which is the mechanic, which is kind of like a daughter to Jack, and she's the one you're going to go to get all your upgrades. And then there's Wanda, who's this reporter that kind of you're going in and out with and discussing the case and things like that. Jack's backstory is kind of cool that he used to be like in the army and things like that. I don't want to say any of this is forgettable, but it does seem like a lot of it's skippable. This game does have a lot of talking, so I did find myself at times like skipping some of it just because I'm like, okay, like let's move it along. But I mean, I will say if it's not anything, it's thorough. Like if you want the lore, there's a lot. If you want to pay attention to it, that I guess um, you can get out of it. As far as the graphics go, I'd argue that this is probably the glue of what holds this game together. It's a distinct hand-drawn art style mimicking the 1920s and 1930s rubber hose style. I thought this was kind of cool. To achieve its unique look, the developers utilized over 54,000 frames of hand-drawn animation. The team used rubber hose animation, a standardized style from the 1920s and 30s. If you're interested in noir style, the black and white, the Dick Tracy era kind of stuff, this game it has that in spades. So if that's animation style is something you're interested in, then it's right up your alley. And I'd say that's probably the funnest part is seeing how they make everything look. If it's not something that you're interested in, I would say it doesn't do anything to dissuade you from enjoying the game. There's nothing about it I think that would go like, oh God, it's more of this. I think it's done exceptionally well. It has kind of like that Cuphead style vibe to it. So
I
I
was
don't think there's
gonna
really
say that
much.
seems like that's the big like selling point to that game
Yeah,
is
I
the
think I
art
think it's
style, just like
arguably
how
the best
Cuphead's.
part. Yeah, it makes all the bosses look cool. It makes all the characters look cool. So at the end of the day, as far as the price goes, it's a steal. It's 29.99 for the base value for the base edition, and then 39.99 I believe for the deluxe. As far as if do I recommend it, I wouldn't skip this game if I were you, especially for the price point. But if you are interested in buying it, if 30 bucks is too much, I do see this game being like on Game Pass by the end of the year, maybe early next year. So you could probably sit back and wait, but I definitely wouldn't skip it. This game, I would argue, probably isn't going to be up for game of the year by any means, but I do see it being up for the best indie game. And there is debate of what really defines a game as an indie. Like
Yeah.
how big can the team be? Should you be self-published because they do have a publisher? But online, it's saying that it is considered an indie game. So I do see this game being nominated for the best indie when we get to the Game Awards. So if you're interested in keeping up with games that have prestige and are going to be nominated, yeah, I would say definitely don't skip this one and play it. And it's quite long. It's longer than I thought it was going to be. It's probably closer to like 10 hours if you're cruising through it, and then 12 to 15 if you're going to do like um a complete collection. Because yeah, there is the blueprints you can find, there is the baseball cards you can find, there's secret areas in every world. So there's a lot to do in this game. It's just unfortunate that there's no new game plus and that you can't backtrack. But I would definitely say it's worth checking out. Yeah, so I don't know if you have any questions for Mouse PI. If not, you can move on to yours, my friend.
I'll say I want to play it. I think it
Hey,
looks
I need you to
good.
play it.
Do you think over anything else that's out right now, and I guess this could be something for other people too, with how you, especially how you and I play games, since we do a show, we kind of have to move on to whatever the next thing is. Do you think this is something that you could sit on for a while? Like, okay, if I'm busy right now with Pragmata, and then we have Final Fantasy, and then I think 007
Double oh
also
07,
comes out
yeah.
too.
I
So
say I say get it. It's a weekend game. You get it and you knock it out over the weekend. So I mean, it's nothing that I think it's gonna hold anybody up from the next big thing. Like this is like if you're bored and you're looking for something to pass the time for the next big game, this is the game to do it. You beat it. I mean, if you're sitting down and you're putting in decent sessions, you knock it out in 2 days.
okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
That actually sounds pretty
And,
good.
and for 30 bucks, I mean, I think it's definitely worth its bang for its buck. And again, you and I don't look at it in terms of like does price and duration matter, but if you are someone that does matter to, for 30 bucks, you're getting a pretty decent game and it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it.
Well, what I've been playing
Hey,
and what
talk
I
to
want
me,
to talk
baby.
about
Talk to me.
is it's Pragmata is how it's pronounced. So forgive me because I keep saying Pragmata. Pragmata.
Oh,
They even say it throughout the
fancy.
game a million times. Pragmata, 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 Pragmata. I keep saying Pragmata. But Cap Gods have delivered again. I'll get the BS out of the way. This is my game of the year right now.
Oh, over
Coming off of
RE9?
coming off of RE9, I love this game. It
Excellent.
is so good. Like it definitely got me. And I didn't think it was going to. I was like, okay, we've been like, oh, it looks cool, it looks really good. Like we'll play it, whatever. I did not expect to love it as much as I did. This just came out on April 17th. Actually, within 2 days, too. Speaking of another game, brand new IP and how hard it is sometimes to launch something like that, it had already sold over 1 million copies within 2 days. So
Ooh.
people are obviously loving it. It's doing really well, it seems like. And I think there's talks of it maybe becoming like, okay, this could become like a franchise for us moving forward. But Capcom is just absolutely killing it. They have RE9, they have this. Monster Hunter Stories 3, I haven't played it, but a lot of people are loving that right now. So that's another one that people are saying, like, okay, like they're just nailing it. And then they still have that new Onimusha that comes out this year
Oh,
too.
but dude,
So if,
Capcom is
if that comes
slaying
out
it.
this year, we could see, like 4 to 5 games of theirs in they might sweep Game of
Yeah,
the Year for just
nominated for a
all
lot
their
of
games.
categories.
So either way, Capcom's absolutely killing it. As far as just a story and what it starts for the premise, you're coming from Earth. You're a team that is sent up to it's pretty much a mining colony called the Cradle. It's on the moon, and it's like they're mining something called like lunafilament, and they use it for like 3D printing and to create stuff. And there's pretty much like a lab and stuff like that up there. Comms have gone quiet. you're going up there with your team to figure out what's going on. And as soon as you get there, you don't really see anyone there. And then it kind of just goes crazy because there's a big AI that's supposed to be kind of helping out with everything called Edis that is actually setting all the robots free and turning everything against you and kind of like killing everyone. So it starts off pretty crazy like right away. You played it. I think it's within like the first 10 minutes
Yeah, the
you're already
first
like
15
in
minutes, yeah, you're in
action.
it.
So I'm liking that, and I'll get a little bit more into the story a little bit later on. As far as like the gameplay wise goes, that's the bread and butter of this game, especially for like the way it is. It's a third person shooter, but I also call it like a puzzler, so a puzzle shooter, because essentially you're fighting these enemies and you kind of don't really do too much damage to them, but you do damage to them.
Doo-doo.
The best way to hurt them is there's a grid that comes up when you're aiming at them and you're hacking them. And the point of hacking them is to open up their core. And once you open up that core, you can shoot them in their more vulnerable spaces, and that's how you're going to do the bulk of your damage. And it sounds maybe like it's a little bit repetitive because if you don't kill them in the first place, they close back up and then you're kind of doing it again. But it's just so simple that it feels really good to do. Not to mention, there's different variations of it. So you have to get to one spot on the grid, but as you're like moving it around, so you're holding, and it feels pretty intuitive to play. So like as you're controlling it, moving, you're using like A and X to like move around and like
Yeah,
kind of
I thought
on
that was
the
actually really cool. They used the buttons instead of the D-pad.
yeah, and so it still feels really good to play. So you use the buttons to like pick your direction, but there's other like little blue tiles that you could like pass through to keep them open for longer. And then eventually later on, there's like other boosters, and I'll kind of get into that like in a little bit. But it just feels really good to play. Like hacking them at first, I was like, I don't know if I want to do like sit here and have to solve a puzzle while I'm like fighting something, especially too when you have like multiple like enemies on you, it can get pretty stressful, especially if you're backed into a corner. If I shoot this guy, I know he's not going to stun because I don't have him opened up yet. So how can I kind of get out of here? And that it doesn't just like leave you stranded. You're in a spacesuit, so you can jump. Some of the battles are in like a zero gravity, but you also get these boosters on your back that make your guy feel like a bit more versatile. So you can like dodge in between like enemies too. And so you can kind of jet through and be like a little bit faster and get to them before they get to you. As far as those boosters or the other boosters I was talking about earlier, is there's different kinds of things. So when you're hacking somebody, you can pick them up off the ground, or you can like start. You create kind of like a loadout for your guy, so you can start with them on you, but you can only use a certain. You have a certain amount, so it's like a usable. It pops up on the board, so it'll be a yellow square with a symbol in it. If you don't go through that square, you do not get the boost. So sometimes, if
Ah,
it's off to the side, you kind of have to go out of your way to do it. But there's ones that like lower the enemy's defense, so that way you're doing more damage. There's more offensive ones for if I'm closer to the enemy, my damage will be stronger. Whereas if I'm further, and then they make some where okay, if you don't like to be up close, if you're further and you like using the faraway weapons, there's a mod for that too. So you can kind of mix and match all these like little mod chips. So it really kind of changes up the way that you play the game a lot, especially with some of the weapons. So it just felt so good to play. I know you said you played like a little bit of it. Kind of how did you feel a little bit
dude,
of it?
I now after hearing everything you're saying, like I am looking forward to it because I started it this morning and I was like, damn, because I had to work early, so I was just like, I'm like, God damn it, I'll put it down and I can't wait. I'm looking forward now to. As soon as we're done with this episode and I'm editing it, all that stuff, I'm playing Pragmata, man. It sounds delicious.
As far as like the story and the characters are, oh, actually, I skipped the part the world design. You're pretty much playing it. It's futuristic sci-fi like aesthetic. As the world goes, you're in a spaceship, but then there's different sections that you go to. So you go to one, and it's pretty much like a 3D printed version of like New York. So you're literally on the streets going through tunnels, but you can tell stuff doesn't look right or it's not printed. And then you might go from that section to there's another one where it's literally like a rogue forest that's like growing inside the ship that's not supposed to be there. But
Sick.
it's cool to see like certain areas like that aren't finished. And so maybe I need to get from A to B. So I'm trying to turn on these like things to get it to finish 3D printing maybe this bridge for me to like get by.
Dope.
And so it feels like very like familiar to stuff you would see on Earth, but with that future sci-fi tech. And so like that can kind of lead into like the graphics and the style. Like one, it's an absolutely beautiful game. I didn't have any problems with it as far as like running or anything. So for it to be like this gorgeous, it's pretty crazy. And it really leans into like the sci-fi. So even though there's some of that stuff like I just said that's grounded a bit, like even when you see the main character like Hugh, he has this badass spacesuit that he's wearing, and you can get different ones on there, but I felt like that original design was so cool. I didn't even change his suit the whole game. But there's just lots of little things that like just really lean into like the sci-fi. What's funny too is I guess I'll lead it into the next thing is that you get like a little girl companion. She's a Pragmata, is what they are. She's like a little girl android. She looks like she's maybe like 10 years old, and she acts like a little kid. Her name actually is DI03367, and you give her the nickname like Diana. But again, she acts like a little kid. That the bond between these two, the way they play together, it would be easy for them to do like I don't know, like The Last of Us or something else,
Yeah.
where you have the grizzled old guy who doesn't want to deal with the little kid. Like, no, like he's like, oh, I don't have kids, but he ends up loving her like a daughter. He treats her like it's his own kid. And as far as like the design, leading back to the design and like aesthetics too, he has like a little harness on his back and she's like sitting on it the whole time with you, and that's how you're hacking stuff. Is she's the one that's hacking everything for you. So it just seems like every little thing it's just designed with a sense of kind of like purpose that I don't know. At one point, I'm like, well, I don't really get this, and maybe it's just there to be cool or something like that. But leading back into the relationship, like that's the absolute like star of this game and what this game is about is like the relationship between those two. People are calling this game Dad Space instead of Dead Space, which I absolutely love. And maybe I just love this game a bit more because I just had a kid myself. That, like, man, I kind of can't wait for him to get to this age to do these goofy things. Because even when you're doing the small stuff, like you're just talking to her. You can talk to her like when you're in your little safe space. She'll talk to you as you're kind of going through the area about what's going on. Not too much like other games do, but like I feel like it's just right. It's like little kid funny, but you can find these like little it's called REM and it's like memories from Earth. And so you can give them to her and it'll be like a little area where she could build like a sand castle or like a swing or something like that. And she'll play on it like a little kid does. But like one of the best things is like she's like, "Oh, you know what? Thanks so much, Hugh. I made you something." And she'll give you like a little drawing that looks like shit because it looks like a little kid drawing,
I have seen that
and it's
online,
like
yeah.
it's like pinned to something, so it's almost like pinned to the fridge. It's just like every little thing about these two together is the best part of the game, and it's so funny too because a lot of people like at first I thought they were talking shit. They're like, I can't believe Capcom would do this in Pragmata. They're using AI art. And like, look at this. That like, I can't believe they would have AI do this, but it's her shitty little drawing because she's technically like AI. I'm like, oh, that's actually really funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So either way, like I don't want to say too much else because it'll like kind of really give away a lot of some of the other stuff in this game. I actually felt like there was even a point too where I'm like, man, I didn't see this coming that way that that would be the big turn for it, but it's just really good. And even at the beginning, I'll say too, I felt like maybe some of the enemies are a little I don't want to say samey, but they kind of are. But that's really more for you to learn. But you quickly, especially in different areas, step up to enemies that like have different fighting techniques. Some are just like defensive and they're just built to kind of corner you. So others are fast, others are hitting you from a distance. There's others that are trying to sneak up to you. So there's a lot of enemy variation. This game is just so good front to back. Like I absolutely had fun with it. And even after you beat it, there's another thing called like hidden signal that it tells you about that you can go through and do like these other challenges to get like a separate ending that I ended up in going through. As much as I love this game, I went through and I have every achievement except for one, which is to beat it on the hardest difficulty. I'm like, I don't know that I want to do all that, and I might, so I have it like downloaded. But I went through and took the time. I was like, no, I got to do everything else. I got to get the collectibles. I got to do this. Like, I just fell in love with this game. This game was $60, so lower than the average 70. It launched on everything. Um, I think you could cruise to this if you're not doing the collectibles in probably like 12 hours, but I think it's just as long as it needed to be. It did not overstay its welcome, and at no point was I playing this like I'm like, damn, dude, like is this game gonna end? Or sometimes you hit a section, you're like, okay, this kind of sucks. I felt like I was always just moving on to like another thing. That I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just always on to the next thing. Or when I have these abilities, now I can kind of go back to this area and do this. And I'm like, oh man, I just kept playing. I'm like, I want to stay up later. but I have work tomorrow, but I just want to get this. I want to get to the end. I just need to see what happens. It's just that good. And then
Awesome sauce.
I'll say I think the last thing I want to end it on is maybe throw out like a couple tips for you. I think the most helpful things for your playthrough. One, I didn't realize it at the beginning because when you're upgrading, there's different things that you can upgrade with the filament. You could upgrade your guns, but you could also upgrade some of your abilities that you have too, like your health or one of the bigger ones is your booster. So you start off with only being able to just boost like one time. I think you could get it all the way up to like five. And so towards the end, dude, I'm just doing circles around everything. And then the other one is more for if you're doing the collectibles. I didn't see it in there at the beginning, and so I don't know at what point it unlocked for me, but is I would say probably within a couple hours into the game, and maybe I just didn't notice it. Is there's a scanner, and so if you push X, it kind of scans everything in the room. Um, I think you could already do that regardless, so it'll show you where to go. But when you upgrade your scanner, it will show you where all the collectibles are. So it already tells you that on the map. It just doesn't tell you how to get there to each thing. But once you get that, I'm like, okay, cool. I at least know that it's in this area. Now I need to figure out how do I get into there because it's locked behind this glass. Is there a hidden wall? Is there like maybe some sort of path I didn't see or something like that? So it makes it infinitely easier to at least go back and find the stuff. And I don't think I had found it until like midway through the game that I was like, oh shit, there's a scanner in here. I didn't even realize that. And moving forward, I'm like, okay, cool. This is so much better than me just, even though I'm organically finding a lot of stuff as I'm playing, I was like, man, okay, I'm loving this game. I want to clear each section before I move on as much as I can. It just made it that much better.
Nice. Actually, you kind of remind me with like tips for it because I don't think I mentioned it in mine. Is on in Mouse PI. There's these barrels that you can use to you can blow shit up. And I think I told Sam and Denny that because I don't think people knew you can actually pick the barrels up and you can throw them at people and you can also walk up and you can kick them and dude and they go flying. So now that you said a tips and trick, that's for people too. If you don't use the barrels and you don't have to just shoot them, you can pick them up, throw them, and you can kick the shit out of them. So nice, man. Was that everything you got on Pragmata?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you can't
Two game of
afford
the
it, you
years,
want to
but they're
wait.
gonna get snuffed by GTA 6.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Everything's going to go to GTA 6. I mean, we already know that. Personally, for me, though, so far, this is my game of the year. Like, I didn't
That's
think something would pass RE9, let alone so soon, and it was just so good.
yeah, the fact that they were able to drop two bangers, man, back to back is insane. So,
Agree,
hey,
because
well,
Monster Hunter Stories, too, even though we
oh,
haven't
okay,
played
yeah.
it, I see nothing but praise and love for that game online right now.
Hey, they're doing big things. So, guys, that is our reviews on Mouse PI for Hire and Pragmata. Let us know down below if you've played them or if you plan on playing them and if this helped you out. We did go a little bit long, so we had two questions from Killer Ian and Cien Christian Vargas, but I think we'll just do that for our next week's story. Well, I'll add them for the next week's episode. So I think we're probably gonna end it right there just to make sure everything stays nice and tight for you guys. So, guys, that is the end of episode 230. Join us next time, guys, for episode 231. Until next time, guys, my name is Craig Prowse. That is Mandrew Montemayor. Cheers.
See you guys in the cradle.